Hi everyone, welcome to TSAM Digital. My name's Amy and today I'm joined by Herbert Schild, who's the Global Industry Lead for Financial Services at Appian. So welcome Herb, great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So today we'll be talking about ESG, but first I think would it be good if you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Appian?
Yeah, glad to do that. Again, my name is Herbert Schild, the Global Industry Lead for the Financial Services area. So that includes banking, capital markets, private equity, the fintechs of the world, stock exchanges, and so on. We are a low-code automation platform. We like to see ourselves as an enterprise platform where we enable our customers to really automate and digitize the environments. And it really doesn't matter what the use case would be. We're really present in all three lines of defense, either customers use us on the front side for customer interaction directly, or in the middle back offices in risk and compliance and lending and customer onboarding, servicing, you name it. And it's really the question I always say to our customers is, look, wherever you have complex processes, end-to-end needs to automate, you should consider us, at least be part of the discussion, and we can tell you where we did maybe similar use cases and how we can help you really get you to that next maturity level.
That's great. And I think, as you say, you cover all different aspects of asset management business functions, you serve different industries. But with regards to ESG then, tell us a little bit about your solutions there and why this is an important topic at the moment.
Yeah, so ESG is an interesting beast, I call it already, because it's not just a use case for a certain business area, right? It is an enterprise challenge and therefore an enterprise problem. And I've been this year in a lot of ESG conferences. And even when you look at the conferences everywhere else, there is ESG always a topic and sustainability. The problem is that I see two personas right now. There are all the ESG data providers, those vendors that say, oh, I have, for your asset classes and for your carbon footprint, all the data. And so there's a lot of selection that you can choose as a customer. And the other persona is actually maybe the head of sustainability, the sustainability group, or whoever is responsible right now driving ESG and sustainability initiatives. But what's missing completely is actually who's enabling that? Who is executing and helping the head of sustainability to get commitment from the different stakeholders, external, in-house, to get that data that they need. How do you then get that data in, centralize it? You need to do something with that. You need to maybe qualify it. You need to standardize it. And once you get to that process, you still need to compare it then to your internal ESG criteria, maybe to KPIs, KRIs, things like that. And then at the end, you start reporting on it. So all of those pieces in between, that glue, that's where Appian really plays, right? And I think we are unique in that aspect because we are an enterprise platform and it's an enterprise challenge versus enterprise platform. You've got the solution right there. You mentioned also solutions. So because ESG has so many different stakeholders in an organization involved, each stakeholder has different needs, right? You've got maybe a business unit where the head of sustainability asks you, oh, I just need a form to be filled out, or send me an email about something. And you get the next one that says, oh, I have a spreadsheet and I have all this information in there. And the third one says, I got to integrate with systems and draw reports out of it and combine all of this. So all these different individual needs take a lot of time and resources. So you can already start here and say, how can Appian actually, with its flexible low-code approach, visual programming, basically, help those individual needs and get this all into one central place, like in our platform. And then once you get it all in there, then the head of sustainability comes in and says, now I can move all that through workflow into the next phases and really manage the process flow and also get and enforce that commitment. And that's, by the way, true also for external stakeholders. Think about vendors that supply information. And the ESG industry still is relatively young. People are trying to figure out what's the right information, how much do I need? Do I actually understand my environment? Do I understand really what my footprint, my carbon footprint truly is? So there's a learning curve, and I expect that amount of data that we currently collect will only grow exponentially the next 5 years, to really showcase where is a company on their ESG journey, on the maturity path, and how can they actually manage those initiatives more efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. I know the data sets are bound to grow, as you say, and it's a very complex landscape as it is. But thinking about the individual needs of those stakeholders that you mentioned, like the head of sustainability, what are the current challenges with measuring and reporting on ESG data? Like you mentioned, a lot of them have different issues, but what are the common problems that they're facing?
When you peel off the onion layer to its core principle when you talk about ESG, in my mind, it's the data. It's the data, just being able to know what kind of data do I need. And that means I need to understand and do basically sort of a risk assessment, an enhanced risk assessment on all my products, services, and processes. Now, that's why we see often customers starting that journey on the risk side, right? Because they're already doing risk and control self-assessments. They need maybe some flexibility in more agile questionnaires to add those ESG relevant questions and parameters to it, and then they can extract the results of that, combine and roll them up like you would do in the risk side, and get a better view about what is my true impact from an environmental and social perspective, and where you actually should I focus on for initiatives and things like that. So Appian is great in that sense because we are data driven. We always have the term of low-code data. It's a standardized approach where you visualize your data in truly visual components. And then it gives you, because you have visual process flows, a really nice overview. Where do I get all this information? Am I missing something? Am I having bottleneck situations somewhere in the process? But even more important, am I evaluating my products and services correctly? Because this is all ultimately related to reporting. And if you report something out to your stakeholders, to your shareholders, to your constituents, and it's not being backed up properly, you get really into big trouble, right? We've seen this with many other areas as well. There's also what Appian does is we have a very, very extensive partner network. And those partners are, in so many instances, very specialized already into certain ESG areas. So they use us with their own development teams even to create solutions and applications to address certain issues around ESG. The nice thing is with an enterprise platform like Appian that if you set it up right, you can leverage an application or a solution and expand from there into other areas, which means you take existing components, leverage those, and you mentioned the term Lego, right? It's the same thing with a child, right? We're taking Legos, putting something together, building something, and then suddenly you have a house and you have a town. But the nice thing is it's all interconnected with each other, and the connection is the data itself. And that is the real powerful thing that I really love about the company and the product.
That's great. Some great insights there already on, how Appian helps and where it really helps in terms of making those connections, as you say, because I think it's often very segmented, and that's, you definitely need an integrated approach for sure. And regulation, of course, is something that comes up at all of our ESG events, in the conversations. So when we think about regulatory reporting and insights specifically, how does BPM help? And can you tell us a little bit more about Appian's low-code automation platform, please?
Yeah, so regulation is another big challenge, right? Because first of all, there are 400 plus frameworks, standards, regulations globally around the world, and they're growing. I can see slowly a convergence of standards and things like that because everybody's trying to make sense of what is it actually that we're asking companies to report on, and it needs to be comparable on those things. What we do from a local perspective is helping clients to streamline the process of managing all those regulations, not just ESG related anyway, across the board. Because if you look at really large global banks that are our customers, they have to be different in every jurisdiction, in every region. So they have sometimes really large teams just to manage that information flow. And so what you typically can do is, you maybe sign up with some external vendors and they provide you sort of a pre-filtered view into these are the regulations that are coming down the pipeline. And then you still need to take that in and evaluate it. Well, how relevant is it to my company, to my service, to my businesses? And then if it's relevant, to what extent, then I can prioritize that. And then I have to say, who's involved in that, right? IT is always there, the business side, marketing, legal, whoever. So there is a huge amount of workflow coordination efforts that need to happen in the intake side, as well as then managing those processes through. And that's exactly where Appian, like with horizon scanning, comes right in there. Because we can tell you, look, we integrate very easily through APIs, bots, you name it, with these data sources. We give you a centralized view. Then because of that data, which is actionable data, you look at the data, anything that you need at that moment in time, you make the right decision and you kick off the next step, the next decision model. And then you say, okay, now I prioritize this type of regulation. I involve, then Appian really becomes a communication platform sort of, because then you involve all the different stakeholders that need to contribute what needs to be done to become regulatory compliant. And then you basically go into this PMO type style thing, right? There's the work streams that you need to do in order to actually make that regulation happen within the company. And these are a lot of different manual processes. There's always emails and all those things involved. We can really centralize all of those activities within Appian very quickly. And because it's low code, you can just establish this on the fly. You don't have to go back and do change requests for a process request. You're doing it because you see the process in front of you.
That makes sense. It sounds like a good system to me. So you kind of answered my next question there, which is, by talking about the benefits of Appian. We see a lot of vendors in this space, as you'll have seen from our channel, our events, etc. Obviously, there are a lot of people offering data solutions. So what makes Appian different? What would you say is your sort of number one selling point that sets you above the competition?
I think that question is really easy. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are the glue to make it happen. I mean, we can all talk about it, right? Oh, I need this type of data, and then I need to do some reporting on the back end, the different types of reporting metrics and jurisdictions. And then I need to manage stakeholders to get the information, all that things. It's all workflow. It's all ultimately, in a sense, case management. And that's where we come into the game. And if you talk about somebody else, I don't really know about anybody who is an enterprise platform that allows you that high degree of flexibility to establish those processes, change them on the fly, and just get things done. And that is, I think, the biggest challenge that the head of sustainability or the sustainability groups really have. And there's also, if you are able to convey that speed and agility to your constituents within the financial institution, to the board, to senior executive management, then I think it makes your life easier to actually drive change. I don't sometimes envy sustainability groups because, everybody wants to be sustainable, and then the decision is made, oh yeah, we just established a group and they just do their stuff in order to get some reporting out of it. The important thing is the empowerment. How much power do you really get as a head of sustainability to drive change? That involves a lot of different parties on the IT side or the business side, and you need the support from the board, top-down approach. So for the board, it's important then to understand, well, how are we doing things? What are we doing? And how are we actually progressing on the ESG path? Because investors, shareholders, they're all putting pressure on the board to ask the question, what are you doing in that space, right? And I mean, very large banks are already contributing billions, literally, of dollars to new sustainable lending products and things like that. So the shift is happening. It's just not fast enough. So if you use a platform like Appian to really accelerate that, to be at the same time more efficient and automate, because it's all costs, right? This is cost center type of things, then you think you're on the right path and you can make the right decisions and quickly monetize on that also for your customers, your products and services.
Yeah, great answer. It sounds like low-code automation doesn't just help the day-to-day workflows, but as you say, helps that buy-in from senior management, helps prove to stakeholders that you're actually doing a good job. So it sounds like a win-win, really.
And there's one thing, Amy, I want to just mention, because when we talk about low-code automation, Appian specifically talks about complete low-code automation, because we are saying we have the complete set of all the tools in your tool belt you'll ever need to automate and digitize your environment. It's just up to you, and we don't box you in anything, to use whatever tools you need at that moment in time. And then as you mature and get better and faster in building applications and solutions, then you just leverage more tools, may it be bots, may it be machine learning, AI, process mining, you name it. So that is the big differentiator, because not everybody who says it's low code is actually really true low code.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good to know, because I know obviously any kind of service, you're still outsourcing, you're still having to use a vendor and have those relationships. So it's good that you empower the head of sustainability, as you say, to take those decisions, to do what they do best, and just enable them really to do their jobs well and help create positive impact. So that's really good to know. And then I think we're running out of time. So closing thoughts then. Where do you see the industry in 5 years? What is the future of ESG, sustainability and carbon zero? What do you think the industry needs to do to improve? And what are the your projections for the future?
So I'm like now a little bit sort of neutral in my emotional state when it comes to ESG. And the reason is, when you look at a lot of companies, and that's industry agnostic, because Appian is in any other industry as well, because they all deal with automation. I can see that, they're saying, oh, we want to be carbon neutral by 2030. I mean, that's literally 7 years away, not even. Considering the time it takes even for human behavior to change and for organizations to change, that's a huge challenge. So in order to really make that happen, a platform like Appian is a part of the answer to accelerate that. I can see, though, when I talk to customers, at conferences, when you look at the products and services that are being newly developed, they all have that ESG carbon neutral type of element in it. And especially larger banks, they're already talking about, well, if I have to do all that stuff and collect all the data, like through a central platform like Appian, how can I monetize and maybe put this as a service back to my customers, right? Or maybe I use process mining in scouting for that larger database and understand better my customers and their needs. And then you put on maybe machine learning, artificial intelligence on top of that, and you can really maximize the value that you get out of that. So I see very good progression towards that goal, but I think we are not even close to yet in our efforts to really move the needle, and we need to. And, we don't want to wait until every single person of us is affected by it directly, which we already can see, right? When we look at the environment, when we look at in Europe and in Americas, how dry everything gets, the exchange, the extreme weathers, all that stuff, that's just the tail end of what's really going on. We need to look into our own lives and evaluate every day, what is it that I'm actually doing? How can I change that from a sustainability perspective? And if we do that like 2-3 billion people at a time, we affect change, and then financial services customers and the financial institutions will then realize that and actually are forced to accelerate even further their efforts. It's that snowball effect, right? That I'm hoping that will accelerate further and further in the next several years.
Yeah, it puts into perspective, isn't it? Which will be 7 years away from now. It sounds very close, doesn't it? But hopefully, as you say, the industry kind of picks up speed and takes on these technologies and kind of accelerate their efforts now that we're post-pandemic. So obviously, you'll be joining us at the Summit for Asset Management ESG. So I'm looking forward to hearing more in your sessions and catching up with you in person. And obviously, our audience can visit you at the summit as well. So I think that's all we've got time for now, Herb. But thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Amy. I appreciate it.
Looking forward to seeing you at the event.
Have a great day.
And thanks everyone for watching.